Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast. We're not live tonight, but it's our interview sessions, man, where we talk to some intriguing and interesting people when it concerns the world of sports. And tonight, we have a really, really great guest tonight, man. But before we get into that, make sure on the sound of my voice, make sure you like, click, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bells for all the notifications on the podcast side. You do what? You give us that 5-star review for those that are listening underneath the sound of my voice. So let me go ahead, introduce our special guest tonight. Good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Sports Chasers Podcast. We truly do have a great guest tonight. His name is Mr. Andrew Menter. Andrew is a dynamic leader whose innovative work in fitness technology is transforming how we understand and optimize human movement. Born in South Africa and raised in Dallas, Andrew's athletic journey is nothing short of remarkable. From earning a tennis scholarship at Brown University to playing semi-professional rugby and competing in four Ironman championships, including qualifying for the prestigious World Championship in Kona, his accomplishments are inspiring, to say the least. But Andrew's story doesn't stop there. With a law degree and an MBA from the University of Houston, Andrew spent 5 years on Wall Street. Shout out to New York, because that's where I'm from. Before founding his first company, Viviture. He later serves as CEO of TriggerPoint before launching, I hope I'm saying this right, but get me right, Andrew. Is it Physmodo in 2016? We'll get that right. A game-changing company in fitness technology. Tonight, we'll dive into Andrew's incredible journey, explore his revolutionary work with his company, and discuss the intersection of sports, technology, and the human potential. So let's just buckle up and let's get ready to have a great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's meet our guest for the night, Mr. Andrew Menter. Let me give him some applause. Andrew, my friend, how's it going, sir? How's it going? How is it going tonight?
It's going great. I would like to talk to whoever wrote that intro, because that was awesome. Some of it was actually true.
Man, first off, how do you pronounce the name of the company? Did I pronounce it right? I just want to make sure.
Nailed it, man. You got it.
Okay.
Physmodo.
There you go. Okay. Gotcha, man.
Yeah.
So let's talk about movement tonight. What got you into this realm of doing this? I see you, like I said, you've been with, you were CEO of another company, TriggerPoint, and now you started this company. How did you get into this movement? You're very involved in physical. Let's just start there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know when this is actually going to air, but just yesterday was Djokovic playing against Alvarez, an incredible match in the Australian Open. And it's amazing to me how Djokovic at age, whatever he is, 30, I don't know, 36 or something. And right. He tore his meniscus, I don't know, one of the majors last year. He's back in 3 weeks. But, these guys at a high level are just so affected by injuries. And a lot of them are acute, but some can be prevented, which is really what excites me about what we're doing. But to actually answer your question, in 2014, I was given a movement assessment and loved it. Someone took me through an analysis, showed me where I had some issues. They weren't terribly surprising. But then based on where I was having some issues, I got a score, and then I got a program to try and improve. And I thought it was awesome. The only issues I had were that, man, this screen I got to have someone there to give me the screen. I'm not sure where I'm going to see this dude again. And it takes, about 15, 20 minutes. So I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again. But if I could figure out, let's do a really quick screen where I don't need somebody there and it didn't take very long, so I could do it all the time. That would be cool. So that was the inspiration behind this. And then, the reason that screen that I took in 2014 was so bad was I just had, so many injuries, and they're all on the left side because I'm very asymmetric. And number 2 cause of injury is asymmetry behind previous injury.
Wow, that's true. What kind of athletics you say you played? Rugby? What else? Tennis?
Yeah, I played tennis in high school, and then got into. I didn't get into Brown because of my academics. That's for sure. But tennis helped. I mean, you can't be stupid to get into the Ivy Leagues, but you don't.
So
tennis
helps.
helped a lot. But then made the, of course, natural transition from tennis to rugby. But rugby was fun because I was born in South Africa, only lived there 8 years, hence the lack of an accent. And my uncle played for the Springboks, rugby's king in South Africa, 2 World Cups in a row, and just kind of grew up with it and loved the sport, and played that for a while. The interesting thing is that of tennis, and then I did rugby, did a lot of Ironman stuff, and then CrossFit for about 6 or 7 years.
Right.
The sport that I got injured the least, not even close, is rugby.
Get out of here.
Seriously. Well, when you can't use a helmet as a weapon, it's. I mean, some concussions, a couple, and then some broken noses, but more in tennis from just banging on the hard courts, and then the running, in triathlon along with the cycling, and then CrossFit, just trying to do heavy barbells for time. Rugby was the least amount of injuries, but there's plenty across all 4 sports.
I was about to say we're about to interview a gentleman. He plays rugby, and that was most of his injuries from rugby, man. So you saying that says a lot. But like you said, when you play it with no helmet, I guess it does what it tends to make you, I guess, be a little bit safer on it. Well, not a little safer. You to make, I guess, better decisions because you don't have a helmet.
Yeah, there are no targeting penalties in rugby because no one's leading with their head. That's for sure, man. Yeah. So
no, I got you. Go ahead.
I was fast when I used to play rugby, so that's maybe helped. Just I'd run away. So okay. No one would tackle me.
Got you. So we may have to have you come back and talk some rugby too, because my co-host, like who I told you before, who's sick tonight, he's really enthralled with rugby, and I said I'd try to get some more rugby people on there, but we'll get at you next time.
I love it.
For rugby. Let me get into this other question here. You work with, your company focuses on democratizing, move it, screaming through a 30-second self-assessment. What key breakthroughs made this technology both accessible and effective for its users?
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes back a little bit to that first screen I got, and then subsequent screens, and there's a lot of good ones. Just kind of depends on what you're looking for. It's important that you can use the screen by yourself, and you can do it remotely. And there's some challenges with that because bear with me where I get slightly technical,
okay.
But the iPhone or on the Android device Android device as well, and then iPad. There's the front camera and the back camera, and that back camera is a 3D camera, a LiDAR camera.
Okay.
The front camera, which we all know and used a lot for just facial recognition, is not a 3D camera. It's a 2D camera, just a color camera, and so you can't self-assess unless you're looking at the phone, so the phone or iPad can give you instructions about what to do, right?
Right.
So herein lies the challenge. We're trying to capture 3 planes of motion, but we're only getting frontal plane with that front camera. So we were able to, well, actually, let me back up. Initially, we used a full 3D camera that was separate from the iPad. You know, if you remember the Xbox and the big
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Microsoft camera, Connect camera in there. So you had that, and then you had a monitor, and then there's just a lot of hardware pieces, and that's gonna, you can't use that at home. That's going to be a little difficult to get broad usage of that. So anyway, we took the front camera, used something called inverse kinematics. You can't follow up on it with that because I can't explain that too well, but I just know it's a fancy way of saying we use algorithms to be able to get 3D from that 2D camera. And so now you're able to take your phone, you can set it up against a vase, a glass, you name it, level your camera, which we have a bubble leveler, step back, do 3 overhead squats, and we're going to give you your movement score based on your mobility, your stability, your posture, and your symmetry, and give you some indicators about where you're having some issues.
Right.
And then you can have some corrective programs to get better. And so democratizing it, basically we're saying anybody that has a mobile device can do this at home. I met a guy the other day at a coffee shop, and he's like, man, how does this thing work? I set my phone up against my coffee, step back, did 3 overhead squats, and did it. So you can do this anywhere, anytime. It takes 30 seconds and don't need anyone there. So long answer, but that hopefully gives you guys a good picture of what we do.
If you may, I got it queued up. Can we share the link that you sent us?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, let's do it. Let's share it here.
Start by placing your device facing towards you approximately 3 feet off the floor. Adjust your device until the bubbler on the screen turns green. The arrows will guide you where to stand. Get in place with your feet shoulder width apart and your arms down. Now turn your palms out as we calibrate. Now raise your arms and perform 3 squats. Squat as deeply as you can comfortably squat while keeping your feet stationary and on the ground. Follow the coach's on-screen cues for when to squat and when to stand. Now relax while we calculate your scores.
Wow.
On the scoring screen, you'll see a composite score for all of your domain scores, as well as a score for each domain. Tapping into a domain takes you to that domain's details and shows the subdomains, as well as any issue areas. Tap the Move Navigation tab to see corrective protocols tailored specifically to your needs. Navigate through the app by using the tab bar located at the bottom of your screen. To get to the home screen, see your history, your movement protocols, and anything related to your account, such as your profile, FAQs, scores explanation, and how to take an assessment.
Wow. Pretty impressive. That's glad I had that queued up so we can give our viewers what exactly does the device does and the application does for its people. So it's primarily, if I'm looking at this straight, it's not just getting just a, how can I say, it's getting your movement and how a person is moving. I don't know how to try to explain it, but it kind of goes in depth on how you would move. Like right now, I got a rotator cuff shoulder injury I just had. So I know my score on my right-hand side will probably be not good.
Probably not. So you're probably, no, so did you have surgery for that rotator cuff, or are you just dealing with it?
No, I had surgery for it in September.
So. Okay, so perfect. I'm not perfect that you had that, but for purposes of giving an example, great. So let's take you back before your rotator cuff tear, right? One thing I like about this is if you screened your movement like once or twice a year, that's not going to tell you anything, right? There's too many variables. Were you injured? Did you have a tough workout? Were you just driving in your car 5 hours? Did you just have the flu? Or, there's so many you slept badly. So you have to get a number of screens so you kind of get to your baseline, right? So because it only takes 30 seconds, do a number of screens over a couple of weeks, we'll get your baseline. So let's back up before you got injured. At that time, you have your movement score, including what your right shoulder is. So you may be getting, and it's a 0 to 100. 50 is your average score. People get 57 and they think it's no good, but that's actually not bad. Let's just say you had a let's give you more credit. Let's say you had 65 on your shoulder. You had pretty decent range of motion. All right, you tear your rotator cuff. You have surgery. You're not going to be doing our screen that quickly because you need to raise your arm over your head. But let's just say you're a couple weeks post surgery. Now you want to test where your shoulder is, right? So your baseline. It's a 65 on that right shoulder. You're probably going to be in the 20s or 30s. So how do you know when you're going to get when is your return to action going to be? We now have something that objectively tells you, hey, Kevin, you're back at a 65 now. You're back to where you were before you got hurt, and I can objectively tell you that.
That's pretty impressive, yeah.
I mean, when I tore my Achilles, sadly playing rec soccer, I was just trying to go out and make some friends. I just moved. So someone's like, hey, come and play some rec soccer. And so I was scared I was going to just rip my hamstring. So I got out there and I warmed up so much on that hamstring, and 5 minutes in, my Achilles popped. But so that was no fun. But I didn't have the best dorsiflexion ankle mobility to start with, but I knew what it was. So as I went through that recovery, I knew when I was back to pre-injury, and I think that's pretty helpful. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing. I don't. You didn't want to. If you had taken that 65, if you're getting to let's say a 60 or 58, 60,
right,
you're probably feeling pretty good, but you're not there. So don't push it. Don't go back. And so I like to say, and this is not mine, I stole it. But you can't manage movement if you can't measure it. So it's like anything else. I mean, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, all these other things we measure, but movement's a vital sign too, man. It's super, super important. And that's why we have just focused on keeping it at 30 seconds. So there's no excuse for not measuring your movement.
No, that's definitely important. Now that you're into the biometric game, your thoughts on being in this technical field amongst others like Apple and those things. What's your thoughts on that? And are you guys different from that, so to speak, or are you trying to move in that way also? Because you're just saying this caption in just 30 seconds. You went out. I got an Apple Watch on now. That captures some of your quote unquote vitals, as long as you have the watch on. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So I love this question because it kind of gets to the core of what I think our differentiator is. And so I like to give the example of when I went for a hike in Tucson last summer, which dumb move, a lot of rattlesnakes, too hot, all that stuff. That aside,
right.
And at this time I'm nursing a torn meniscus. So just dealing with it, and it's fine. But I go on a hike and just slept great. I mean, and that night, naturally, and had a 97 on my wearable using the Whoop. HRV was awesome. Just good deep sleep, all that stuff. I did my screen, did the Physmodo screen, where I'm pretty average. I'm around a 50, but I got a 34.
Okay.
So my Whoop device told me, and understandably so, that my biometrics were good. I'm a 97, and that I'm ready to go in recovery. It said, hey, you're peaking. Go knock yourself out. Well, I can't move because my knee is really sore. So you need both the biomechanics that we do and the biometrics. And so I'm not entirely answering your question, but I got the opening to tell that because it's important. And then it's like, how deep do you want to go? We're just trying to get a basic baseline for what you're, how do you move? Like, are you flexible? Do you favor one side or the other? Do you have a stable position? Like, you'll see a lot of yogi people. I guess they call it yogis. Something like that. I don't know. Apologies to anyone I've just offended, but they will have the best mobility score. I mean, their range of motion is great, but their stability is typically awful. So, you got to have all, movement that works together. So I say that because there's things like, you watch the pros, and they're telling you so-and-so, Tyreek Hill's maximum speed is 22.1, and just because a lot of folks are wearing sensors, and you can tell some really cool stuff, and so you can go really deep. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to get your basic movement, and I don't think we're real fancy, and we're just doing one thing, and that's it.
It's funny you said that, yeah, because you get these things now with the NFL players. If you watch the NFL games, it'd be like, how fast did they run? 21 miles an hour. Somebody the other night was watching the game. They were saying he ran 21 miles an hour. And I think information, technology, analytics, all of that is great, and it gives you information so you can know what you can do as far as the future and how to prevent, I guess, injuries. Also, with that said, so I think you guys you got a great product. Your place at TriggerPoint. Let me go back to TriggerPoint. When you was at TriggerPoint, when you was over TriggerPoint, I should say. What did you guys mainly focus at that company?
Yeah, so we and no credit to me. So the founder, Cassie Phillips, invented the foam roller. For those that don't know, it may recognize the orange foam roller that you've seen out there. And so just foam rolling and movement wasn't the big term 15 years ago. And so he kind of made that into kind of a household word, term, name, product. I'm not saying the right thing, but it became very popular. And then as we found tools to be able to help you move better, it was just a matter of getting, more products out there to help. And so it was like building a brand, which Cassie did a great job.
Right.
And then, it was just kind of taking that brand and expanding it. And the company eventually got bought by Implus, which they bought Rock Tape, the perfect, if you remember the perfect push-up
Yes.
thing from like 30, 40 years ago, other products. So it's just, now you see everything. You see the foam rollers, you have the massage guns, you name it. But I think, TriggerPoint was early to this game.
Got you. Let me dive into this with Physmodo. Movement screening tools seem like it could be transformative for both elite athletes and everyday fitness enthusiasts. How do you see this technology impacting the broader fitness and wellness industries?
So, how long do we have in this podcast?
Let's go. Let's go.
No. So, when we had our, sales deck or investor deck, and I remember this is initially the first slide we had was there was a study from I think 2012, and it said it asked the percentage of Americans reporting the following chronic medical conditions, and 31% was circulatory, 28% was respiratory, 13% was diabetic, which I can't believe it was actually ever that low, because that's probably in 30-something% now, sadly. But musculoskeletal was 54%. So that is, you're talking about the most number of health issues. They're related to movement. Now, not everything is preventable. You put your foot in a pothole and break your ankle. There's nothing. It doesn't matter how well you move before that. That's not. That's just the way it is. But a lot of stuff is not acute. So we'll just go to regular everyday people just working in the office, sitting in a chair. I think the number is 750 million lost work days due to back pain. So back pain is a lot of times it's usually because of one of three things. It's not because you slipped on on a banana and just wrecked your back. You have poor hip mobility, you have no hamstring flexibility, or you have bad core. So you may feel fine today, but if you have bad hip mobility, your back's doing more work than it needs to. And so eventually it will give out. So there are ways to prevent injuries. So that can apply to anybody. It can apply to, family and just someone who wants to pick up their kids and go to the park. It can apply to, doing all this Ironman stuff or whatever, competitive sport, weekend warrior, you name it, to, the professional side of things. Some of the worst, we've worked with in the military, and I can't say anything more than that or get in big trouble, but some of the strongest, fastest, most powerful people, and they can't move. So you say, okay, let me see if I want this guy as part of my team. Well, let's give him how fast can you run, whatever it is, 2 miles, how many push-ups can you do in a minute, whatever the tests. They're all strength related, speed. Well, how do you move? Because if you have an engine that's capable of that and you can't move, you're going to hurt yourself. And so I don't even know if I answered your question because I can't even remember what it was, but hopefully that got some of it. But it just applies to everybody, man. It's just from someone that doesn't even work out to somebody that's making an inordinate amount of money playing pro sport. You've seen probably the numbers, like whether it's Major League Baseball or NBA or the English Premier League, the hundreds of millions of dollars of salary that's just sitting on the bench.
Yes.
Again, not all of that is preventable, but some of it is.
Got you. Now that you said that, I'm just going to veer off just a little bit. So the whole thing with the NBA and load management and things like that, they're saying now, because I remember guys playing back to back and it's not a problem. They wasn't injured as much. Now they don't play as much and it looks like they're more injured. So just your thoughts about that. I don't have all the numbers on there for you people up there, but I do recall that, hey, these players used to play back-to-backs, play 81, 82 games, wasn't an issue. Yeah, some guys got hurt. But now it looks like, hey, everybody, we don't play back-to-backs as much in the NBA. And, they have streamlined games out. These guys travel, they don't travel coast no more. It's private jets, everything. They don't go to TSA like me. Just your thoughts on that real quick. Let me just delve into that since we're talking about, players on the bench, because that's one of my pet peeves with the NBA.
Well, one of my pet peeves as a Dallas Maverick fan is that no one's healthy right now.
So they need your stuff to get them moving.
Yeah. And I don't think Luka Doncic will ever win the MVP because I don't think he'll ever play 65 games and qualify for it. But you know what? As you were mentioning that, and I figured you're going to ask me my opinion on that, I'm like, man, I got to think of something to say because I have no idea, and I don't have any idea. It's
right.
It's exactly the opposite of what you'd think. I mean, you're right. People they would fly and coach. They play. Back to back, they play 82 games and plus, you could actually, you remember, Mahorn and Lambier and all those guys. There's some tough playing right now. And not right now. You can't touch anybody, and it's I don't know. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So thanks for putting me on the spot. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
No, I was just asking that being that we was in movement, man. And like I said, I don't have one in front of me whatever. But I just from the naked eye, the guys back in the days, they played 82 games back to backs. It wasn't an issue, and now we low manage and we think 82 games is too much. And I don't know, but that's just another story for another day. Let me ask you
Well, you know what?
this
Sorry, let me jump in because now I've thought of something, and this may make no sense, but
okay.
If you look at you know, baseball players, you look at like, you know, the size of guys now versus how they used to. I mean, players are so much bigger right now and stronger.
Yes.
And I think it'd be interesting to look at what do they do at the combine. It's reps of 225.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that number's probably staggering compared to maybe 20, 30 years ago. So maybe people are just a lot more muscular and a lot stronger, and kind of getting back to what I said earlier. If you have a bigger, stronger, faster engine and your mobility isn't great, you're more susceptible to injuries. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of on the fly, and it could be completely off, but I don't know. Maybe that's it. It's really interesting. I'd love to delve into that.
I think that would be something great. Yeah. And then we come back and we talk about it here on the Sports Chasers. Let me ask you this. Your journey has taken you from Division I athletics to Wall Street and then to entrepreneurship. What life lessons from those experiences have influenced your approach to leadership and your innovation? What you got for us on that, Andrew?
Well, it's an interesting story because I think at coming out of law school, I took the bar and I'm licensed and I keep that up, but probably, I'd say 30 minutes into my first class, the first day of law school, I'm like, shit, I don't want to do this. I don't think law's for me. But I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? And I went to law school for the reason most people go to law school, and that's a lack of a creative alternative. But I was, I was young. I was, early 20s and
Right.
Bluntly just motivated by money. And all my buddies from college were in investment banking, and they're making more money at age 22 than first years out of law school at top firms. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go get my MBA while I'm doing my law degree, and I'm going to go do that Wall Street thing. And so I did, and just made a lot of money, but I don't think I really added any value in life. I mean, if I got fired, no one would care, and I could be replaced the next day. And I wanted to do something, create something, and do something innovative. And so that's when I started my first company when I was 30. And it was working with college health centers doing software and insurance billing. And if that wasn't the most boring thing I've done in my life, I don't know what is. And I just didn't know what the hell I was doing, because you come out of Wall Street and I'm this just young, naive, and arrogant 30-year-old where life has been easy, and I'm like, yeah, you just do spreadsheets and increases by this, revenue goes up by this, and
Right.
this is how it'll work. And I just got flattened. And ultimately, that was great because it was very humbling, and motivations changed a bit, and I also learned a huge lesson. And this may sound counterintuitive, but for entrepreneurs who they think a great idea, but maybe it doesn't look like it's going to work, then quit early. If it's not going to work, don't be stubborn like I was, and stick to it for 9 years and find yourself at age 39 where you're falling flat into your face. If I had that advice after 2 years where I didn't think this was necessary, I thought it was a good business model that wasn't necessarily a good business, but I never quit before in my life, so I wasn't going to do that now. But not every venture is going to be successful. But hey, credit to anybody that goes out there and starts it and gives it a go. But if it isn't going to work, move on, dude. And so that was a huge lesson. And look, it could have ended up being successful, but I had some execution problems and had some bad luck. And conversely, at Physmodo, been executing a little better, and also had a little bit of luck too. And you need both.
I think you're
I guess
right.
the takeaway is, look, don't be afraid to quit early, and don't go do college health insurance billing in colleges, because that's boring as hell.
Can you tell me what firm you work for on Wall Street? Or you can't?
I was at JP Morgan.
Okay, got you. Did you enjoy your
You know
time?
what?
Go ahead.
No, it was. Man, we worked a lot of hours, but it was fun. The energy in New York, it's just the best, man. I miss that, and it's a lot of hours though, and this is kind of sad. I remember leaving the office, because we usually had to leave at like 12, 1, 2 in the morning, and we'd
Right.
only start about 10. But I remember leaving the office with a buddy of mine at 10:30 one night. We looked at each other and we're like, man, what the hell are we going to do with all this free time? I mean, how sad is that?
Wow.
It's a lot of work, but the good thing about New York is you can go out at 10:30 and you can find stuff to do for.
That's stuff to do at 10:30 in the morning. Where'd you stay at when you was in the city?
I was Upper East, 83rd and 3rd. I went back there because I lived there 99 to 03.
Okay.
I flew from JFK to Heathrow on September 10th, 2001. So that was weird. But I went back there, 5 years ago, and nothing's the same. The pizza place I went to every week for forever isn't there. But man, I love New York. I still love going back.
Yeah, being I was born and raised, I have this love-hate relationship. I love it, miss it. I don't think I want to live there anymore. I'm used to my suburban living now, so I'm
I was there for the game seven with Aaron Boone's home run and whatever it was, in the 13th inning or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. But let me just go back as I go all over the place. I was was at a presentation. It was at something related to the Dodgers, VC, and there was a great speaker who's a biomechanist from Red Bull, and on his presentation, he had, hopefully I don't mess this up, a slogan that I love that pertains to what I was just talking about the risk, and he said, "Seek risk, celebrate failure, stick it out," and I think that sums it up, man. It's like, go for it, take a risk, and if you fail, then whatever, dude, keep going, stick it out. And I've had to remind myself of that quite a bit. But
no, I think that's some great advice from that gentleman, because I think too many times people, one, are scared, two, to gamble on yourself. I'm all about betting on myself. I really am. I love me, and I think I can do anything if I want, if I put my mind to it. And me and you, obviously we think alike, and yeah, bet on yourself and don't quit. But if it's not working, right, hey, we got to put an expiration date on it as well.
Well, I think coming out of Wall Street, I mean, I had a massive ego, because just making that amount of money at that age,
Right.
things had just been easy. Where it's just been successful in winning state, and then playing D1, and then all this other stuff, and the law school stuff was pretty easy, and making money, and it's just huge ego, and that went away pretty quickly.
Right.
But don't let that get in the way. I mean, if you quit early, it's okay. Don't let your ego get in the way, and that kind of pertains to everything.
Yeah, I think so. Let me ask you this: coaches, what benefits can coaches get from your product, from Physmodo?
Physmodo. It's. I know we should rename the company and make it a little easier, but we kind of got a brand out there now, so it's too late.
Physmodo.
That's another. We started in 2016, so if you're 8 years in, don't change the name. But when you start, make a name that
be sure
you're not alone.
Physmodo.
I can't fix that one. How do coaches work with their players? So, I mean, if you're, so let's look at, let's talk about University of Tennessee, because we work with them. and they have not their football, but with their Olympic program, and they have 550 athletes, and they were doing maybe about a screen maybe once a semester. It just wasn't very frequent, and kind of as we addressed earlier, way too many variables. You got to be able to screen multiple times to get a good baseline. These kids are flying across country for a game, and they've just gotten back, and there's a tough game the day before, and they do a screen. It's going to be a different score than when they've been rested and not on a plane. So anyway, we wanted to make sure as coaches, you want to know as much information about your players and how they move as possible. So what's great is they now can just set up the screen in their strength training room. The kids can go through there. Am I allowed to say kids? I'm 51, so anyone below 40 is a kid. So they're kids. The kids can go. Yeah, the kids can go through there. They do their coach doesn't have to be there, right? So the coach then just gets the information on how the athlete has done on that screen. So, let's go back to the example I was using on your shoulder. So your baseline's a 65. The coach is seeing that, okay, Kevin's a 60. All of a sudden you go in one day and your 65 is now a 55. Well, the coach can get a notification that you're 10 points down on whatever it is, shoulder, ankle, knee. And at that point, the coach can say, all right, well, let's dive in and something's going on. We're not diagnosing anybody. We're, again, just giving information for the coaches. And so one of the most important, you can't coach somebody if they're injured, not playing. So let's keep them playing, and we're just going to give you information, consistently give you information to be able to train the athletes in such a way that they're going to stay healthy and perform better. And then also, we also have programming that, coach can give you ankle specific or shoulder specific or sports specific, or you can take our library of corrective exercises and make your own. We're not going to tell you how to treat someone's shoulder or ankle or knee or anything. We're just going to let you be able to track progress, measure it, and act accordingly.
With that said, are you guys working with any medical professionals or medical groups or anything like that? Or is that something in the future for the company?
No, we are. And so we're working with the sports orthopedic group in Atlanta, and they're doing a lot of outsourcing. It's I guess more maybe just a marketing more than anything else. They're working with, because they're not making any money on this directly, and working with a lot of the high school teams and club teams in the area. And so there's 20,000 kids there. So,
right.
Again, you have to be able to, screen remotely. You have to be able to see how these kids are screening, and they're not going to come to the hospital to test how they're moving one day, but they'll prop their phone up against the wall or whatever, and it becomes competitive. Because people want to beat their friends.
Yeah, they want to see that. Yeah, see your numbers go up.
Yeah,
be competitive.
And then just kind of coming back to University of Tennessee is, they have the screen on campus, but then kids aren't always there. They have their summer break, and then they're traveling for games. So now by having this enterprise version of our software on location, and then they have their phones where they could prop it up at their hotel room and screen, then you're covered anywhere you go. But yeah, so it's on the college side, it's with sports orthopedic and their patients or youth athletes. So kind of coming back to democratizing movement,
right?
Anybody can do this. Unless you've had rotator cuff surgery. You can't raise your hand. Arm over your head. Now you can. Look at that.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
There you
What's next for the company? What y'all got lined up next? What's in the immediate future?
So what we're not going to do is because we get asked this all the time is, hey, so that's great that you're doing the overhead squat, but what movement are you going to do next? And we're not. And the reason we're not is we're not pretending to capture everything about how you're moving. But I think that we're getting about 75, 80% of what you need. And if you start adding more movements, it gets back to the problem I had with that screen the first time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need someone to take me through it. And I'm not going to do it as often. I'm not going to be able to self-assess. So the exact opposite of your question about what we'll do, I wanted to start with what we won't do. And that's another movement. And the overhead squat is a part of every single other movement screen out there. And we're getting a lot of information. So what we are going to do is we're going to take that data. We're working on just improving that AI recommendation engine so that we're now going to know. So I'm going to steal your example. So the things that you're doing for your rotator cuff, I don't know anything about how you're doing it, who's helping you, what you're doing, but let's imagine that you're doing some things to improve that mobility through our software. Well, some things work and some things don't work. Ultimately, our AI engine is going to be able to hopefully show like this works for this works for that, this doesn't work for that. And we get to a point where we can really help people recover from injury, prevent injury. And so that's one, is improve the AI engine. And then the other piece is, if you remember, we talked earlier about, all right, I'm getting my biometrics through, right, whether it's Whoop or Aura or your Apple Watch or what. That's biometrics. I need biomechanics. So we're working with a company called Rook, and just awesome guys. They may be interesting for you to talk to. And what they have is on another's app, they have an SDK which basically allows any app to pull in the information from a wearable. So you could have our app and we're tracking your movement, your biomechanics, but we're also able to pull in your biometrics from whatever wearable you can. We're not going to do all that development because the Rook guys already have. And so at that point now, I think we have enough data at that point to say, all right, here's what your true recovery is. We're going to look at not just your movement and not just your HRV, sleep, oxidation, all this other stuff. Put it all together and get people a hell of a lot smarter than me, kind of on the data science guys, right, and do their magic. And I think we're good. It's data. It's data, and those are the two ways I'm looking at it. And if you ask me next week, I'm sure I'll have a different answer.
What's the proudest thing you've been proud of business wise?
Proudest thing business wise. Man, weren't you going to give me a heads up on this stuff? Yeah. You know what? There's no way our business should have gotten through COVID. Absolutely no way. The vast majority of our business was with gyms, and when your customers and potential customers are closed, filing bankruptcy, both, it's tough, and it's having employees that will stick it out with you and right, not getting paid and grinding and fighting for some government dollars that are out there, and just being as resilient as possible, and to come out on the other side of that was pretty awesome. And otherwise I would have had to go back to practicing, well, not back to practicing law. I've never practiced law, but I can do that if I had to. And if this thing didn't make it through COVID, I could be practicing law, and that's worse than doing investment banking.
One of my favorite words in the dictionary is resilience. It's so easy to give up. It really is. But what's resilience? The ability to just bounce back. And being that, there was a lot of casualties when COVID came for businesses. It just, unfortunately, it went under because of what was going on and with the pandemic and things of that nature. And you telling your story of how, you had some people that stuck through you through the tough times and through the hard times. And that's not always as easy because, people, naturally they want to get paid. And, for you to tell your story and how, even through that, you guys were able to make it. It's definitely a story within itself, and how you just got the motivation to just keep going and keep doing and keep the business running. I'm gonna ask you another question here. If you had to practice law, which kind of law would you practice? I'm just curious.
Bankruptcy.
Okay.
Here's why. I would never want to do corporate law because so boring. Just, I had a friend that's doing securities work and working on filing proxy statements and 10. I'm like, I don't know how you do that for a living. I really don't. On the other hand, you have people that are in the courtroom that are just, most things don't go to trial, but there are hearings and they're just fighting the entire time. So I really don't think I'd really want to be a litigator. And bankruptcy is kind of cool because you have some litigation and a lot of business. So it combines the two, which I like. And one of my best friends from law school is now running the global practice of a large firm on bankers, and he loves it. He absolutely loves it for that reason. And he helps companies out. He gets to use his business acumen, and he gets to fight on occasion with opposing counsel. And I think that's what I would do. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, and it won't.
It won't, because you are doing an awesome job with Physmodo. Thank you so much. Let me clap it up for our guest for the night, Andrew. Any last thoughts before we end it today? I feel like there's still some more stuff that we got, and and it's funny why we're doing this. My co-host, he sent me some questions to ask. I said, please go to bed with your sick self. I don't want your flu.
When I have the flu, I'm not able to do anything. So I question this self-diagnosis.
No, he sounded really jacked up, man. But needless to say, man, I had a good time tonight talking with you, Andrew. I appreciate you reaching out, and we talking and vibing about this, about your company and how we're trying to get people to move. And I think that's important, that people move. And like you said, when you talked about how, sedentary lifestyles and things of that nature, man, that leads to some of these chronic ailments that people have, especially here in the States. And, we're thankful for your product, thankful for you for being a revolutionary, has that mindset, to want to create something. And that's what it's all about. Any last thoughts before we get on out of here?
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and it's been fun. Just enjoyed the flow of the conversation. But yeah, I think it's pretty simple. But we talk. There's so much talk these days about on the biohacking and the longevity, and there's some cool stuff out there. But just move. Movement and how you move is a huge indicator of longevity. So yeah, there's all this, fancy stuff and, rapamycin and all kinds of stuff that I can't pronounce either, but just move, get up and move, make sure you can move well. And that's a big piece of longevity.
There you go. That's the product. Just go to their website right there and keep on moving. So, but Andrew, I feel like there's still so much more to talk about, man. But we'll get together and talk about that again. Thank you so much, my friend, for coming through, man. And this will probably be aired later on this week. So, but listen, we're gonna get out of here. On behalf of myself, I'm Kevin Owani, the host and moderator for the Sports Chasers podcast. Thank you for Mr. Andrew Menter for coming through tonight and talking with us about what's the name of the company, Andrew? Because I'm going to mess it up.
Physmodo. You crushed it on the intro. So
I don't know what's wrong with me. Physmodo. I got it now.
You got it.
Andrew, don't go nowhere. Hey, this is the Sports Chasers podcast. Y'all be good. Y'all be great. Hey, we'll holler at you later. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.